Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I want to talk about the new or changed Ralakesh'S Impatience boots. How are they working, as well as what fancy things you can do with those. So if you're gonna put up the wiki over here real quick, we're gonna see what has changed. So basically in the past they were used as a form of like generating charges before boss fights, before maps and stuff like that. So basically you equip them and then you gain a frenzy, endurance, or power charge once per second while you're stationary. But the problem was like as soon as you like move, you just lost all the charges again, right? So as I said, it was like more of a, yeah, oh, I'm about to hit like a boss fight, let's put them on and then swap the boots before I move so I keep the charges with the certain duration, like 10 seconds or whatever you had. So this patch 323, they got changed, and now they're saying count as having maximum number of endurance charges, count as having maximum frenzy and power charges. What that basically means is as soon as you equip the boots, even though you don't see it visually, you have all the charges. I'm currently having one frenzy, one power, and one brutal charge coming from my belt, so maybe just unequip that so you guys can follow. So I have now one of each charge. This is because I run one of each of the minimum charges, power over here, frenzy, and endurance over here. So if we check here on the charges tab in your character sheet, you see here endurance charges 1 out of 10, then frenzy 1 out of 10, and power 1 out of 10. These are the three minimum charges, and I do currently have a maximum of 10 power charges. Just as a quick follow-up here, why do I have so many charges? Basically, this is a power charge stacking slayer, which basically scales the maximum number of power charges, gets the same amount of frenzy charges thanks to the Badge of the Brotherhood, and then gets the same amount of endurance charges thanks to the Masterful Form Slayer Ascendancy, which says your maximum endurance charges is equal to your maximum frenzy charges. So that means I scale power charges, through the amulet I gain the same amount of frenzy charges, and through the Masterful Form I get the same amount of endurance charges based on my frenzy charges. It's like triple scaling in that case, okay? So that's why I'm having 10 of each charges, but at the moment I have only one. So now I equip the boots and it says 10 out of 10 endurance, 10 out of 10 frenzy, 10 out of 10 power charges. So now even though they are not visible over here, so I still have like one of each minimum, but I count as having full. That means even in the resistance tab over here, if we go over real quickly on what these charges do, I mean, a power charge is just giving you 50% increased critical strike chance per. Then we have the frenzy charge, which is giving you attack speed, cast speed, and more damage per frenzy. And you have the endurance charge with the elemental resistance and the additional physical damage reduction. So now this is actually pretty sick, because power charge stacking characters or any other stacking character always had like the issue, as long as they don't have charges, they don't have any damage or defense or whatsoever. So there are several ways to fix that. For example, a Pharaoh's for frenzy and power charges, the replica Pharaoh's for like endurance and frenzy charges, and then every time your cat stance is cycling, basically you're generating the charges. So this is like an insane quality of life on its own, because I always, at whatever point, as soon as I have the boots equipped, I have all my charges at any point, and monsters cannot really steal them because I physically don't have the buffs. I can still generate those. So if I go here over to the Blood Aqueducts, my little testing area, or the testing area for pretty much everyone, right? I'm putting here my belt, so I'm res capped. But now you see, basically, if I'm starting to kill monsters, I still get the charges. Now I have 1 endurance, 5 frenzy, and 1 power charge, basically, right? And once they run out, they're just gone. So now I have 10 frenzy, 8 power charges. The thing, though, is it doesn't matter, because I'm still counting as having full. So this here is just a visual thing. If I have frenzy charges or not doesn't matter, as long as I have the boots on. So if that wouldn't be cool enough, there is many interactions where you can like kind of like abuse this. Because, for example, the Maven belts. So there are 3 more charges, so you can get absorption charges. This is basically coming from the Graven Secret, which is basically turning your power charges into absorption charges. Same way happens with the frenzy charges. They become affliction charges, giving you more ailment damage. And then you have, instead of the endurance charges, you can turn them into brutal charges with the Arn's Anguish. That's what I'm using over here. The thing though is, what does the belt say? Maximum brutal charges equal to your maximum endurance charges, so that is 10 for me. Gain brutal charges instead of endurance charges. This line makes that we basically cannot gain endurance charges anymore, but therefore we gain the power charge, the brutal charges. So if I unequip that, I have the endurance charge. If I equip the belt, I have the brutal charge, right? So the cool thing though is, if you check my character tab, I'm still having 10 endurance charges. And you even see that on my resistance tab. So if I go here, defense, forget about the fire res because this belt is having fire res. But you can see I have like 19 chaos res, 75 lightning res. I unequip the boots, I'm losing my endurance charges, and so I'm not res capped anymore. So I equip the belt, and I'm still on my resistances. Why? Because it counts as I would have full endurance charges. So even if I now play with a belt, and I'm basically, I need to get hit real quick because of the thing over here, so I get hit, and you see I'm getting brutal charges instead of endurance charges while still being on maximum endurance charges, keeping my defense. And this is like the cool thing about these boots now, because usually salt D&D clear. So usually it was always like the mix between, hey, do I want to be tanky and keep my endurance charges, or do I want to be high DPS and go for brutal charges? Because brutal charges give you 3% chance to deal triple damage, which is one of the best damaging belts in the game as of right now. So now I have both. I have my endurance charge, my power charge, my frenzy charges, and I can get the brutal charges because the boots say that I count as having maximum endurance. The belt, for example, doesn't convert it in that way. Just say like, hey, I gain brutal charges instead of endurance, so I cannot physically gain endurance charges anymore. But thanks to the boots, I will have all my endurance charges all the time. And there are several interactions where you can basically gain other stats or ignore the fact that certain modifiers exist. As an example, my shield. So Malachi's Loop plus 2 maximum power charges is insane. But usually those items that come with great power also have a great downside. In this case, lose all power charges on reaching maximum power charges and shocks you when you reach maximum power charges, which is terrible, especially for a power charge stacker like my build. As soon as I get full power charges, I'm losing all and I'm shocking myself, right? This actually still happens, so if I deactivate my Tempest Shield, which grants me shock immunity just to counter that effect, but if I would just kill a couple more monsters real quick, and you see my power charges go up, and now they're dropping, and I'm shocked. So now I'm countering that with the Tempest Shield, but the thing though is, even though if I'm losing all my power charges, I count as having full power charges. It's the same thing with like the brutal charges. It's always there. So something like this gets completely nullified, like with the downside with the Ralakesh'S Impatience, which is insane. Because if somebody ever played a power charge stack, or now you have an item that gives you plus 2 maximum power charges, is literally crazy. But there is more items than that that you can basically abuse in that case. For example, if we put up the frenzy charge page, there's like a lot of like items that transform, gain frenzy, lose frenzy, have special effects with frenzy, the same with power and endurance charges, right? But for example, the tool fall, it says adds 50 to 70 cold damage to spells per power charge, which is insane. For example, my ring has 4 to 7 cold damage per frenzy, so this is like 10 times the value of what my ring has, for example, right? The downside is lose all power charges on reaching maximum power charges, same as like the Malachi's Loop, for example, right? So the thing is, with Ralakesh'S Impatience, you never lose power charge. At least you do, but it doesn't matter because you count as having full. So in that case, you're just gonna get all the benefits of the tool fall without having this massive downside. Another example would be snakebite gloves. The snake bites are basically a poison based gloves, which have a lot of modifiers per frenzy charge, and since we count as having maximum frenzy charges all the time, you gain all the benefits of accuracy, attack speed, and so on, while, and this is the cool thing here, while wearing the belt from Maven to gain affliction charges. You know, it's the same way as I do here. Hey, I want to scale my defense with endurance charges, but I also want to have the brutal charges. Here, it's the same thing. As a poison build, Affliction charges is a huge damage gain. Comes from the Olesia's Delight. But the thing is, you count as having full frenzy charges anyway, so you generate Affliction charges on top while wearing, for example, the Snakebite gloves and keep maintaining all the upsides of the gloves. On top of that, there is a struggle like reduced frenzy charge duration per frenzy charge. This usually sucks. PUB warriors usually go for the 3% increased damage per endurance charge. The non-PUB warriors, the actual gamers, are usually taking the 100% increased charge duration. Reason for that is if there is an intermission on a boss fight or something like that, it's so bad if your build relies on power charges, frenzy, endurance, whatever, and while this boss is immune, you just lose all your stacks and you have to rebuild them. So increased charge duration, so they go up to like 20 seconds or something, is a big quality of life. But hey, with the Ralakesh'S Impatience, they're permanently up. Without duration, it completely negates the downside of the reduced frenzy charge duration because you don't care. You count as having the maximum number. So now you understand how powerful these boots are and what things you can do, and I would invite you to just go down the list and see if you can find any like freaking cool interactions where the Ralakesh'S would actually like annul the downside of these like special items, and I think this is like very cool to build around. And lastly, I want to tackle on one certain topic because this is asked on my stream like 10 times a day or even more. What about discharge? Can you like permanently spam discharge now? And the answer is no. The reason is, if you read what discharge do, deals lightning damage, fire, cold, whatever per charge removed. And this is the important thing, charge removed, you know, and this is basically what your buff bar says, not what your Ralakesh'S says that you count as having full. It is the charges that you see in your buff bar. That means if I want to use Ralakesh'S together with discharge, you can do that. But the thing is, you cannot like consume minimum charges either. You can only consume charges that you generated that actually have a buff duration, and that's why it doesn't work. So I'm killing a couple of monsters here real quick. I have these are the charges with a number there. These are the ones that I can basically consume with discharge to deal extra damage. It doesn't work like that. Because you still need to like do something with the charges, and there's other iterations. I think Flicker Strike is also like that you like flicker more often or reset the cooldown per charge consumed or whatever. This does not work. You need to have the charges in your buff bar to actually consume them. Minimum charges or counting as having maximum are not charges that you can consume, so it doesn't work this way. I hope this guide or this little bit Ralakesh'S Impatience video was helpful to you and maybe sets a stone for your next build. I'm currently using them on my Winter Orb Slayer, and I'm having a really great time because I don't care about this like permanent, like how do I get charges. You know, like frenzy charges is super easy because usually you get them on hit, power charge on crit, but endurance charge is kind of bad, and you can basically solve that with, for example, an enduring composer, which says gain 1 endurance charge for every second if you've been hit recently. And how do you get hit recently? You can take something like a Forbidden Rite, for example, and we slap that in and we cast it one single time, and you see that now my charges gain up because I hit myself. You can automate that with like, you know, a trigger, helmet craft, and like cast it on focus and stuff like that. There's many things where what you can like do, but the thing is like endurance charges are very hard to get because they are not based on your hits. They are based on getting hit, and you never want to get hit anyways, right? But hey, with the Ralakesh'S boots, I don't care about that anymore. I have permanent endurance charges at all times wherever I am, and they cannot be stolen either way because they are not physically there. So it is like the mega win-win-win and omega win situation. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.